Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something that's making waves among developers, Cursor AI. If you code solo, work in a team, or you're just curious about where programming is headed, this is definitely something to pay attention to. We're going to unpack what it is and, well, why it's generating so much excitement,
Hmm.
really distill it down.
That's right. So at its core, Cursor AI is basically an AI-powered code editor. Think of it as a true co-pilot when you're coding. What's smart is it's built right on top of VS Code, so it looks and feels familiar to most developers straight away. But, and this is the key part, it goes way beyond standard tools. It integrates large language models like GPT-4 or even GPT-4o. And what that lets it do is understand your entire code base, not just the file you have open. It gets the whole context. This allows it to, intelligently edit, explain things, generate code, even refactor across multiple files because it sees the bigger picture.
Okay, right. That idea of understanding the entire code base, that sounds like the real differentiator compared to, say, Copilot, which many of us use. So what does that full project awareness actually mean in practice? What can you do with that?
Yeah, exactly. The full project awareness is, I think, what's truly transformative here. See, most tools, they look at the current file, maybe a few lines around your cursor. Cursor, though, it ingests and understands the whole thing. Think about the mental load that takes off you. You can ask it something like, hey, add a login function here. Make it like the one we did on the registration page. And it doesn't just guess. It knows exactly where that function is, how it works, its dependencies, all of that. Then it can replicate it or maybe refactor it consistently across the entire project.
Hmm.
It's not just saving typing, it changes how you think about navigating big code bases.
Wow, okay. That's a significant step up. So how do you talk to it? Is it like a separate chat window or?
No, it's integrated really smoothly. You can actually chat inside the editor. Picture a dedicated chat panel right there in your editor so
Yeah.
you don't break your flow. You could just highlight some code, maybe an error message, and ask, why is this API call failing? Or select a function and say, could you make this async and add some error handling?
Hmm.
Or even summarize what this class does. And the replies are really contextual, they're accurate, and often you get these little buttons like click to apply the suggested code change.
Oh, neat. So it suggests the code right there.
Yep, makes it super convenient. It's like having a conversation about your code with your code, almost.
And what if you want it to make changes directly? Like, you know what needs doing. You just want it to do the heavy lifting, refactoring, for instance.
Absolutely. That's where the Edit with AI feature comes in, and it's pretty powerful. You just select a chunk of code, could be a few lines, could be a whole function, hit a keyboard shortcut, then you just type what you want in plain English. Things like, convert this whole block to use async await, or
Yeah.
make this more readable, maybe extract some helper functions,
Okay.
or even add comments explaining what each part does. And Cursor just does it.
In the
Seconds. It honestly feels a bit like pair programming with like a super fast senior dev who knows the whole project inside out.
It never needs coffee.
Exactly. And who never gets tired or makes silly mistakes because they forgot something in another file.
Yeah.
That full awareness reduces errors too.
Right, that makes sense. The never sleeps part is definitely attractive. So, moving beyond the features themselves, where are developers really seeing the payoff, like in their day-to-day work?
Yeah, let's connect it to the real world. The benefits are pretty clear in several areas. Take refactoring code. This is often a huge pain, especially if you're dealing with older, maybe monolithic code bases. It can be daunting. But with Cursor, instead of you manually tracing everything, you can ask it to, say, extract this complex logic into a separate method, or rename a variable consistently everywhere it's used.
Everywhere, across the whole project.
Across the whole project it's aware of.
Yeah.
It can modularize things that were previously tangled up. This can save literally hours, maybe even days, on big refactoring jobs.
Okay, that alone sounds valuable. What about writing tests? That's another one that always seems to fall behind schedule.
Oh, definitely. Writing tests is a prime candidate for this. It's crucial, we all know that, but it can feel really tedious, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with Cursor, you can point it at maybe a React component and say, write unit tests for this using Jest or whatever framework you use, and it will generate pretty sensible test cases based on the function names, the props, the expected data flow. It gives you a massive head start.
Mm-hmm. Gets you past the blank page.
Exactly. You still need to review and refine, of course,
Yeah.
but it handles so much of the boilerplate, lets you focus on the actual logic being tested.
Okay. And then there's the classic developer struggle, debugging. Staring at an error message you just don't understand. How does Cursor help there?
Yeah, debugging and explanations. This is another area where it can be incredibly helpful. You hit an error, or some line of code is just behaving weirdly. You select it, Ask Cursor, why is this variable null? Or explain this error message to me. Because it has that wider context, it can often analyze the surrounding code, maybe trace back where a variable was supposed to be initialized, or point out that an API response didn't contain what you expected.
So it's like a smarter debugger.
In a way, yeah, it's like a debugger that can actually explain the why behind the problem, not just show you the state. It catches things a tired human might easily miss.
Interesting. And documentation, that's another one that's critical but often gets neglected.
Absolutely. Documentation generation is a huge win, especially for teams. Cursor can look at your code, a function, a class, an API endpoint, and generate doc strings, or inline comments, or even full markdown documentation explaining what it does, its parameters, what it returns.
Wow.
Yeah, think about onboarding new team members or maintaining open source projects. Having accurate auto-generated documentation makes the code base so much more accessible and easier to manage long term. It helps capture that tribal knowledge.
I can definitely see the value there. And what about using it as, say, a learning tool if you're picking up a new framework?
Oh, it's fantastic for learning and experimenting. Seriously. Let's say you're trying out Next.js for the first time, or maybe messing with Tailwind CSS. You can just start building and have Cursor right there with you. As you go, you just ask it questions. How do I add dark mode support here? What's the standard way to handle routing in this framework?
It really feels like you've got Stack Overflow and GitHub Copilot kind of merged together, but with perfect memory of your specific project. It lowers the barrier to trying new things. That's a really compelling way to put it. Merged with memory. So it sounds incredibly powerful. But, security, local setup, those are always big questions, especially for companies.
Crucial questions. And Cursor handles security and local setup quite well, which is a major point in its favor. One of the biggest things, especially for businesses or anyone working on sensitive code, is that Cursor runs locally on your machine. It doesn't just upload your entire code base to some public server unless you explicitly tell it to for certain features. That privacy aspect is huge.
Right, that's a deal breaker for many.
Exactly. And because it's built on VS Code, it just slots right into your existing workflow. All your extensions, your themes, your settings, they usually just work. Your Git integration, Docker tools, terminal linters, it all plays nicely together. You're not throwing out your whole setup to use it.
Okay, that's good to hear. So pulling it all together then, is Cursor AI something you think developers should seriously consider adding to their toolkit? Is it, worth it?
I'd say, yeah, absolutely. Especially in certain situations. If you're working on really large code bases or maybe older legacy systems, the context awareness is just invaluable. Also, if you do a lot of remote pair programming, it can really enhance that. Or if you're constantly learning new tech stacks or face tight debugging deadlines, and just for automating those repetitive tasks, writing boilerplate, generating docs, basic refactoring, it's incredibly effective. Now look, it's not perfect. It's still evolving, like all AI. But for many developers I talk to, it's already saving them, a significant number of hours every single week. The productivity boost can be substantial.
It certainly sounds like it. Whether you're deep in full stack development, dealing with cloud stuff, or just fighting those daily bugs, Cursor AI seems like it could genuinely change how you approach your work. A different way to code.
Definitely. And that actually brings up a bigger question, something for you listening to think about. As these AI tools, like Cursor, get smarter and become these really integrated co-pilots, how is that going to change what skills are most important for developers in the next few years? What new creative challenges or opportunities open up when AI handles more of the routine, context-heavy stuff? How does it change what it even means to be a well-informed developer when you have this kind of intelligence assisting you? Something to chew on.